Hello and welcome to the Armenian News Network Groong Week in Review. I'm Asbed Bedrossian, and along with Hovik Manucharyan, this week we're going to talk about the following major topics. The one-year anniversary of the war in Artsakh. Can the opposition reorganize? Turkish-Armenian possible rapprochement.
And this week we have Tevan Poghosyan who will be talking about these issues with us. Tevan is the president of International Center for Human Development. Mr. Poghosyan was an MP in the National Assembly between 2012 and 2017 from the Heritage Party. From 1997 to 1999, Tevan Poghosyan also served as the Nagorno-Karabakh Public Affairs Office Director in Washington, D.C. Hello and welcome, Tevan. Thank you for coming back on our show.
Thank you for the invitation.
We're recording this on September 27, exactly 1 year after the 2020 war in Artsakh. It is a period of reflection. A lot of Armenians are thinking about the past year. Many are in different stages of apathy, anger, and so forth. A lot of things are unknown, but Tevan, maybe we can start. Are we at a position today to know more or less what happened in the war? You know, we're hearing about promises of a parliamentary investigation and so forth, but can you as an individual or as a former leader, do you have confidence what happened, or at least the major parts, even if it's not a exact cause of our loss or why even the war started, but in your opinion happened on September 27, 2020?
First of all, on September 27, 2020, the war started. Early morning, 7:10, Azerbaijan shooted at the anti-aircraft air defense systems of Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, of Artsakh Republic Defense Army, as well as on the major cities like Stepanakert, Martakert, Martuni, Shushi, and Askeran, and Hadrut, and immediately on the all front lines there was a wide aggression from Azerbaijan jointly with Turkish army, at least on the command level, as well as a lot of mercenaries invited from Turkey and mercenaries from Middle East or Syria. It was just as the beginning of any war. One side attacked another one on Sunday, early morning, and we can meet in the world history many of these cases, trying to get at surprise the one side. If you don't wish to discuss why it's happened, was there any prediction, and so let's leave it there. But if you would ask me, do we have a whole picture of the war? I think we have major puzzles, parts of the big puzzle. I do believe as time being we would get also more and more, specifically if there would be an independent commission, not with the major presence of today's ruling party, as definitely they have a personal also interest not present the truth on their roles and their mistakes. But I do believe that one day in our history we would have the whole picture. As of today, we have personal stories from many people to participate. We have already a lot of investigative information which has been done by investigative journalists or some investigations from various cases, as well as a lot of journalist stories. Maybe not investigative, but just descriptive. And definitely there are a lot of personal stories. One is related to me, for example. I've been early morning getting the call from my close friend from Stepanakert, waking up, and immediately my next second activity was to make 4 calls to various institutions where I have access by the phone numbers, and informing the people that the war started and they need to act. Maybe some
So you were actually informing others that the war started?
Yes, this was being calls to MFA, to State Information Institution, to provide for the presidential administration and someone in the governments. And after that, I think there was a lot of immediately information spread. There was 1,000 of calls from various people who know each other trying to engage with the support and what kind of an action should be taken place. Then we can see that or the second part of the day, there was already a National Security Council meeting. Then we see that Parliament have an extraordinary session. And starting from, we have a lot of people who went immediately on the voluntary base towards Artsakh. And we can say that this was the first 2 days over which the state machine should start to work. But now, for example, we're learning that in a 2 days time, for example, some military procedures which has been described by the law that should took place, instead of continuing their work, has been by some decisions from the government cancelled and done something vice versa. One day we would be learning
the
this.
Mobilization?
Mobilization, I mean the whole state institutions putting on the military system, try to understand that the country is under attack. Starting from September 29, I've been in Stepanakert personally. I spent the whole time there and I've been back to Yerevan on November 23rd.
Tevan, was there a systemic lack of information dissemination in the government branches before the war?
I do believe that the whole state apparatus hasn't been properly working. Because, how to say it, maybe Ministry of Foreign Affairs has doing its job. Let's say that, for example, on September 25th, there was an off-the-record meeting in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs where I've been present. In a 2 days' time, the war started, but where all discussion has been how on October 10, there should be meeting between the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Armenia and Azerbaijan in Vienna, which meaning that 2 days before the war, Ministry of Foreign Affairs hasn't been kind of talking about what we're doing in the case if the war starting. I don't know how about the Ministry of Defense, but what information we're starting to learn that minister wasn't been in Armenia by itself and only in the 2 days time returned back, which meaning also, and kind of that kind of an information hasn't been clearly rejected that it's not true or it's lie.
Okay.
Which meaning that if the whole state is starting to work, how we're having these submissions. Then many other informations and many other way how the state institutions has been. There was 1,000 of warning. I have been, for example, one of the experts who has been saying that, guys, very soon, I can't predict a day, but like saying that very soon we are just going to war. There was not only me, but there was a lot of experts who have been warning, alerting that, guys, whatever we're doing, it's starting like this. And one of these elements was that starting from August 1st of 2020, there was a permanent Azerbaijani Turkish military exercise that started. They first declared about 10 days. Immediately as these 10 days finished, they recontinue for 2 months, doing the part, which was one of the signals.
Right.
Yes.
Actually, Nikol Pashinyan at different occasions has also been very ambiguous. First, he said, we know the day, but we just don't know the time when it was going to happen. At other times, he has said that, we never knew that Azerbaijan was going to, start this. So it seems like you're firmly of the belief that we should have at least known that this was going to happen and when it was going to happen.
Yeah, it was been interesting that sometimes politicians are forgetting what they used to say a few times. Specifically, it would be very interesting if you would do one time strong investigation of the all interviews that has been, for example, starting from September 21st of 2020 till the November 9 of what has been said by the Pashinyan on various time about the war and how it started and how it's gone. And for example, how they continue in different way. Once they've been saying that it has been unpredictable, never been informed decision. Then they said that, we have a prediction, but it's very difficult to talk about day and time. Then they've been saying that like it hasn't been surprised for us, and so on, which meaning that I can understand that sometimes wording for the politicians not meaning exactly what they think or what they informed, but you are not playing the game with the nation on manipulation, because I don't think that there isn't any interest in the international arena about what's Pashinyan saying to Armenian nation.
Okay.
War is, they already knows that war has started and Armenia loser. Now, why they need to be interested if Armenian government that they knows about this information or no? It's only interesting for us for learning lessons, for not repeating, allowing, but not it's interested for the U.S. government or someone else trying to say that is manipulative, and it's not even interested to Azerbaijan at all, because they have operating by their information and not what Nikol Pashinyan would be saying now.
Right. Tevan, we can explore different aspects of the war, but I want to be maybe today just specifically on a few points I want to focus. There were several instances. Firstly, like Putin said that on October 19th, it would be possible to stop the war. And Aliyev recently in an interview mentioned that Armenia could have at least twice, before the end of the war, agreed to stop the war at different stages. What is, in your belief, what really happened? I mean, was it really in Pashinyan's control to stop the war in a less, with less losses than we had as of November 9, significantly less? And did he just miscalculate? And how many different times could have that happened? Like, what would have been our best outcome, given what we have now? Like, what could we have hoped for if there was some alternative past that happened?
When we're saying someone could stop the war or not, he need to, first of all, not think about would he say and how Azerbaijan would react. But whatever I know out of all this, we all officially has at least 3 times information that there was agreement for stopping ceasefire, yes? First, October 10, in Moscow, 24-hour negotiations between Zorab Natsakanyan and Bayramov and Lavrov. Then we heard about French initiative, then we heard about American initiative, and then finally ceasefire agreement November 9-10. Now, after that, we have the words of Putin that he first has an opportunity to negotiate this on October 19, which meaning that he didn't say anything about that before that. But what we now learning from Aliyev that on October 7 there was an attempt at that he has been agreed and then Armenia rejected. This is Aliyev words over which we need to. Plus to bringing up additional information to that, there was an advance information spreaded from former ambassador in Vatican that first initiative even has been presented on October 5th. With all these presentations, we have 3 officials during the war. Then we have Putin story, and then we have Aliyev story, which meaning that in reality there was a lot of possibilities. And the major point over which once Pashinyan by itself also that anytime when I'm trying to say yes to something, Aliyev asks for more. Now, guys, if you're knowing that, for example, you try and it didn't work out, like how is your behavior on the way of your management? If I would feel that, for example, Pashinyan is really feeling a pain, understanding that all his management lead to failure, I would see the real reaction from him, like self-resignation from the position, saying that, guys, I wasn't being able to properly lead. Then I would say that there was an attempt and he's sincere. But what we see that he's openly fighting for keeping up his chair. Which meaning that, yes, now maybe in the history we would first learn that maybe on October 1st there was an attempt. But at least whatever he done as a decision making, there is a consequences. And these consequences lead to these results which we have on facts. Was there opportunities? Yes. Was he able to deliver it? No. The all others are the days and something over which maybe in the history or this independent commission hope one day would be able to find out the real information. But at least for me, the most important is not the way how people doing mistakes. It's every one of us is doing mistakes. But the way what we doing after we done mistakes. Are we correcting them? Are we feeling that really we need to be sincere? Are we doing self-reassessment of our action? And are we taking a very difficult decisions? But when the one person is trying to keep the continuation and trying to keep the chair with all these consequences, you understand that even if there was an attempt for doing something, he done it wrong. And maybe this is the point that answering to your question, was there any possibilities? Yes. How would be their outcomes and consequences as a result? Very difficult to predict. But done he anything to manage it? No, because now what we have, the stories from the National Security Councils that I have been called and informed everyone, and then we're having some other people who participate there and who says that, guys, we raised an issue that you need to stop the war on political decision. And as we understand, there was something as a proposal coming up from Onik Gasparyan, from Sharmazano, from Marukian, and from others that we need to stop, and also even from Karabakh leadership. And what the processes was in Karabakh, that president of Artsakh has been sometimes gathering with the members of the parliament and then presenting idea that, guys, we need to be agreed on capitulation and ask Pashinyan that we surrounding, and he need to take that decision and stop the war. And after that, for example, we know that past 4 or 5 days, and only this was the point when November 9 came in force, which meaning, yes, there was a previously attempts and tries over which now it's much more that Armenian side hasn't been brave to take decision, being afraid that they would be blamed as defeaters. But now what we have in consequences or betrayers? If you haven't betrayed even before November 10 any decision, then by keeping up and staying in power and not allowing the new forces to come, try to manage and deal with the all crisis, this is betrayal for me.
Right. And as we close this topic, have you been following the speeches by Aliyev and Pashinyan and other leaders at the UN General Assembly this week? And what are your impressions about the different, the speeches that concern Artsakh?
You know, what has been said by Aliyev, it has been predictable. I would say that he even said less than one could guess how he need to blame Armenia in all the mistakes in the war. And definitely everything that he said about Karabakh issue and something like this has been already saying for the last year so many times that Karabakh issue resolved, there is no Karabakh territorial as such exist in Azerbaijan, Armenia need to behave, Zangezur corridor and everything. That's why not so much interesting in Aliyev's speech as it has been repetition of many things that he already said. But if there was any hope for something in Armenian position, we didn't hear that one.
Right.
Which also has been predicted. You know, when you have a lost government and you have loser and the one who not been able to say the new word, this is also predictable what was being done. And there was a predictions by many experts in Armenia that it would be weak, not strong speech, which we heard. That's all.
And in fact, I believe even the president of Cyprus condemned Turkey's, Turkey's involvement in the Artsakh war, but Pashinyan himself didn't mention anything about Turkey or did not condemn Turkey's activities.
Again, I'm saying that as what has been said by the Turkish President Erdogan before the UN, all these speeches started, that Pashinyan through Georgian Prime Minister asking for a meeting and blah blah blah, and he make a preconditions. Like there was a hope that he would even at least reply to this kind of a leak of the informations. Nothing is there, but it's also behavior of the lost one. We in Karabakh, we have a proverb saying that you can't demand anything from the beaten one. Pashinyan is a beaten one. Nothing is possible to expect from him. He just need to go, and he need to understand this, that by his stepping out on the self-resignation is the only right policy to open up a chance for nation to come up with something new.
Since you mentioned Pashinyan needing to go, we have had several attempts over the last year by the Armenian opposition to unseat Pashinyan, to demand his resignation through street protests, and then we, of course, had the elections in June. They were not successful, obviously. What do you think is missing from that formula? And being always like forward-looking, as pessimistic as, for instance, if you're the belief that the Pashinyan needs to go, but he's not going, so rather than being pessimistic, what should the Armenian opposition do? How should the opposition in general, in the loose sense of the word, not the specific two parties, but how should the opposition to Pashinyan regroup itself in order to achieve the change that you're talking about?
It's a very interesting question on the way what should we do and what we need. First of all, Nikol Pashinyan maybe need to do his reassessment. What would be his demand towards person X in the Prime Minister's shoes if done something like that, and how he would demand his from him. That self-assessment should be much even stronger than any call from any opposition. But because he's not doing that, he's perfectly also doing what he would do for manipulating the whole public in a way for not bringing possibilities for the oppositional voices to be heard and done. He manipulated with the logic that, guys, I would bring the peace, and then public is going, we're starting and running for peace. But what is peace? Azerbaijan would not allow that the peace would come to Armenia. The dream of Azerbaijan is not about peaceful demand, the dream, peaceful living together with the Armenian neighborhood. Dream of Azerbaijan that Armenia would not exist. And that's why I think many strong powers also interested in this part. Like to see today what we have, that early morning, like American ambassador went to Yerablur to put the flowers and remember the victims. I don't remember that, for example, and definitely we perfectly understand, yes, that it's not the personal case. For Ambassador of United States, it's definitely the state policy, and State Department is put the decision what kind of an action should that. Maybe Ambassador advised that I can do something in embassy, I can go to Yerablur, I can visit someone, or I can receive someone, or we can make a statement, like, for example, French embassy or Russian embassy done. And definitely decision has been taken there. But my question is following. Why in 2016 no one went to Yerablur to put the flowers for the 100 casualties at that time? What if the outcome of the war was different? Why the international community is trying to seal Pashinyan's power? What is the interest of the all others that outcome should be like this? And then we need to understand, is there any Armenian political power, be it oppositions, because the only one in the government, we don't have coalition there, who would be able to fight the all interest of the US, Russian, France, Europe, Turkey, I don't know, many others put in the line of many countries. And then we need to understand, if there is a one who could really take this, maybe we have a right to bring a demand towards them and say that, guys, why you are not doing something? The street protests, more than 2,000 policemen is going and, for example, taking everyone to police precincts. Is there anyone in 2,000 policemen who's feeling any national feelings and saying that I wouldn't be doing disorder?
Right.
This is also the issue of how we feel during the patriotic wartime. Do we feel really patriotic, or we try to say that, it's not my task, I didn't get the order, I'm not going to the war. And this is the point where I would say we're coming to the roots of how any Armenian is feeling state. Do we have national state identity to understand that I'm a citizen of Armenian state and I need to believe as that citizen? Because I do believe that, yes, we all have Armenian identity. My last name is Visyan, I know Armenian alphabet, I speak Armenian. I have photos of Ararat Mountain, I have photos of some Armenian hills and rivers and some churches, but all that ethnical identity. How about state identity feelings? And this is the point where even when we're saying that is there any political force, do we treating them on the value system? Or do we treating them on personalities? And saying, whom more Armenians believe? Is it simply Kocharian, Sarkisyan, Levon Ter-Petrosyan, Pashinyan, Poghosyan, Khachikyan, Nersesyan, I don't know, some other last names? Do we interesting on that personality, or do we really interesting in the way political parties behavior and what is their value?
Right.
Is there any interest for me, like it would called Armenia faction? It is called civil contract, or it would be called Dashnaktutun, or are we going for the personalities? And I think one of the major points is that, unfortunately, during the last 30 years, even this was the longest Armenian statehood continuation for our known history, we haven't developed national state identity as a political nation. And that's why we now is very easily manipulating the logic, why the opposition is weak, opposition is weak because the government is also weak. We don't have strong government. We have a government of losers. How then the opposition would be not the opposition of losers? We lose as a nation.
Interesting. You talked about the lack of national values, and obviously there is some valid criticism of why that didn't exist, or why we failed to bring up our generation over the last 30 years. with those values. Do you think, though, that there are short-term actions that can be done? I mean, you answered my previous question with a question, like for instance, we should ask why powerful countries, big powers, are trying to steal Pashinyan as a leader. Do you know the answer to that? And also, is there something that can be done today rather than 30 years ago?
Yeah, the answer is simple. They programmed the guy. They programmed on the way that, guys, if we have any interest in Armenia, we know how to make it to the life. I think is the point of the chaotic or management of chaoses, saying that we perfectly knows if tomorrow we need such statement from Armenia, then we know where to push, where to go, what kind of a statement to do, and then as an outcome we will get from Pashinyan this one. Or today's ruling government, okay, no, not personally Pashinyan. I think for the many strong countries in the world, it's much more easy to have a weak but very controlled and predictable and known how it's work leaders for the small nations, because whatever is now as a processes is going on in our region, at least on the expense of some countries, the strongest countries would be delivering their interest in the region.
Right.
Turkey would be doing its interest. Always see like one day they smashing, destroying on the political level of such Pashinyan, but next day they could say that, oh, but we see the positive signals from Armenia. One day Aliyev would say that, Armenia should know and we would make an offer if blah, blah, blah. And next day he can crush Pashinyan by saying that if he will not fulfill Zangezur corridor, he would know again the power of Azerbaijan, because you are the lost one. If there would be a new leader, everyone should start to work, understand how to deal with this leader. And that's why everyone has preferred already the lost one.
Right.
Would it be Russia? Would it be US? Would it be France? Would it be Turkey? Would it be China? Would it be all of them are perfectly knows how to deal with these guys and try to push their interests. And I think at the end they perfectly understand that all geostrategic changes that's going on in the region, it should be on expense of someone. Now Armenia is the best suited that everyone will get their interest on expense of Armenia.
Tevan, tomorrow morning, if we woke up and we heard that Pashinyan has resigned, is the Armenian opposition capable of leading Armenia? Does it have a plan of action that will take us out of the current problem set?
I think there are, what I'm hearing in your question, there are two maybe part of the question. What I would dream and what I can see would happen.
Okay.
I would dream that, for example, oppositional parties will get together and say that, for example, guys, we are in a crisis and now we need a crisis management, at least for the whole state. That's why let's get the best crisis managers to run the government, overcome the crisis, and after that we will go with the political new election. We don't going with the election now, we don't doing this, we're doing the whole nation. If there is even some constitutional limitations, we not paying attention to this because this is not the time for going with all that. It's time to overcome the crises. What would happen in reality? I do believe that yes, there would be a power struggle, but at least we need to understand that something new would always have much more things to prove than the lost one.
When you say power struggle, do you mean within the opposition?
Between the leaders, between the leadership, between the personalities.
Of the opposition, right?
Be it opposition or not. See, like what we have in our political spectrum, only one party, a ruling party, all other 127 registered political parties are opposition.
Yes.
Now, that's why whenever we're saying opposition, we also need to. They are parliamentary opposition and they are out of the parliament.
I was mostly
Opposition.
referring to the parliamentary opposition. A lot of the parties, the extra parliamentary oppositions are, I don't even really think they are real opposition, to be honest.
Let's see what we have in reality. There is at least one leader of the opposition is the former president of being Karabakh and Armenia. At least he ran in the 15, 16 years on the political arena as a leader of its time. He knows some practice of running the state or something like this. It could be much better than to have 3 years unexperienced one. Something positive would go up because he need to prove something that he's much better than the others. We have the similar team members from the previous experiences, which definitely would be knowing. That's why from the management style, I think there are people who would act much different and at least on the short run for the result delivery to make a proof that see we have been right. I've been promising that we would do much better and we done it. On the long run, I think definitely we need to overcome crisis and not only after that go for the new leadership. And there is always needed time for new leaders to appear. And that time is that also openness that some new leadership would fulfill. What is taking place now in Armenia, they are not allowed that anything new as a word would appear. All the places like filled, and anything new that is appearing is not yet full-fledged, and that's why we're not even seeing them.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's, given all that we have, I still want to cover the issue, these resonations within Turkish and Armenian leadership about, positive signals being sent to each other that we can't see. Mane Gevorkyan this week said that Armenia is ready to begin high-profile discussions with Turkey. Erdogan made some statements on a plane from the Balkans, and I wanted you to just give a high-level assessment of your perspective of where we're going with this. What can we hope for, or is the answer maybe that unless we have power change, then we can hope for the worst? But even if it is the worst, for Armenia, what is it? That Armenia's enemies, Turkey and Azerbaijan, are looking for.
See, let's say that Armenia-Turkish relationship is not something that appeared first time 2 weeks ago, and we have heard. It's starting from 1991. Armenia tried to establish diplomatic relationship with Turkey without any precondition. The same words that has been used by today's ruling party. Levon Ter-Petrosyan said that he would not go with the openly advocating for genocide recognition, and you perfectly understand why Rafi Hovhannisyan has been fired. I see, when we're forgetting about even what's happened in our recent history, we're forgetting or we're doing a wrong policy. And at that time, we didn't have even Erdogan there. It has been totally different leaders of Turkey. Even on that level, at that kind of guys who has been mainly under the EU or Western, let's say, much more controlled situation, there wasn't been an opportunity for openness of Armenian-Turkey relationship. Then the Koçaryan time, he started to openly push for genocide and everything. Again, nothing has been happening, but we perfectly have now the whole histories how Vartan Oskanyan and many others has been trying to work out with, in his time, with his counterparts, Gül and everyone else. You perfectly knows the stories, and Oskanyan has been putting many times in his open interviews that, for example, there was a major 3 meetings, or which he said that first meeting was with the hope, second was without hope, and third was the worst one. And then we have a football diplomacy time. Now, with all this, we need to perfectly understand that Turkey is not simply operating in a way that, guys, let's open up and let's have a relationship. Definitely, they would be pushing for their preconditions, and the preconditions has been said by Erdogan. And at that time, Turkey has been even not so much there to openly engage and support or use Azerbaijan against Armenia. Now they're doing it, and with their military and with their everything, which meaning that they definitely need something, and that something could not be good for Armenia. Now, if you're going to put the whole relationship for everything, Turkey will not stepping out of any of its precondition. And that precondition is becoming known over the 30 years. We need to step out from the issue of advocating for the genocide recognition. We need to simply accept all the Turkish demands that they would put towards us as a nation. And I do believe that we have also very good experiences to see how Turkey is trying to assimilate Syria or go with the economic expansion like in Georgia. What do you think their behavior towards Armenia? Which meaning that in the peace, so-called in brackets, peacetime or peaceful Turkey, they would assimilate Armenia much faster and much sooner to make it like a Turkish vilayet than until we have some opportunities to fight for our interest and try to go with. If we're talking about openness, then our economy should be ready for this open relationship. Armenia is a member of WTO. Turkey is also. Now, whatever they would come to buy as an owners, if Armenia would say, I'm not selling it to Turkey because it's Turks, imagine how many problems we would have in WTO. Have we accept any law that, for example, for Turkey, it cannot be similar cases for our economic openness as the other ones? If not, then definitely the whole your economy would be just simply serving the Turkish economy. Serving the Turkish economy would go with the Batumization or Agerian case. And for example, as in Batumi, they saying Turkish airport, who said that Gyumri airport would not be called very soon Turkish airport, or even Erebuni, or someone else. Do Armenia economies ready for the openness with the Turkish economy? I don't think so. Do we have an open possibilities to speak with them on equal, or they would be speaking like superior towards inferior? Until all this is not resolved issues, definitely any openness would be just simply destroying Armenia as a state. And that's all. And imagine for the all Armenia diaspora relationship.
Right.
Imagine if the state on the state level Armenia saying that, okay guys, sorry, whatever you done last 100 years, let's forget about this. Let's not deal with the genocide. Okay, it hasn't been a genocide. Sorry, not go with push of this. Guys, you just done something. Spent all your life, spent all your ideas to keep up the Armenianness and all your national identity for nothing, because we're now not interested in genocide, we're now not interested in Armenian heritage in Turkey, we're now not interested in anything Armenian. Let's work on this, because Turkey would be putting up these preconditions, and they would be definitely also demanding more and more things, what they're doing, and they calling it Zangezur corridor.
Some are saying that this issue of the Zangezur corridor always existed, or I wanted to get your thoughts about that. But also, during the football diplomacy time, at least the official reason why it failed was the issue of Artsakh. At least that's what Turkey sort of put up. Do you believe that Azerbaijan has as much power over Turkish foreign policy towards Armenia as it did in 2008 during the football diplomacy time, or do you think that even matters?
No, there's been always an Erdogan policy. How it has been presented, I think it's totally different way. With the Gül coming for the football match and talking about some positive relationship was we see the protocols pushed ahead and forward. Imagine like who need to be a guarantor that the Turkish policy of Pan-Turkism has changed. Let's say we would hope that US would do. Was the US State Secretary in Switzerland for the protocol signature? Yes. Madam Clinton was there in that room. Do we have a protocols in our life? No. Let's hope that our strategic ally Russia would do. Was at that time Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russian Federation in Switzerland, in that room, Mr. Lavrov? Yes. Was something happened? No. Is now something happening? Only worse and worse. That's why, guys, whatever we're talking, we need to understand that Turkey is changed a lot, and not in a positive side for the saying that they would stepping out from their pan-Turkistic policies taken as for Erdogan as like he is Messiah and he's trying to push for this. And that's why until Erdogan in a power, no changes would be there. And definitely Zangezur topic is not something new. We perfectly knows about global plan. We perfectly knows that back in 1918 and 20, there was attempts to capture Zangezur, and only thanks to Najdev we have been able to keep it. That's why for the Turkish policy, logic of Zangezur corridor is not the new at all. It's more than 100 years of this policy, and they just simply little by little going towards that and the pushing. Would finally they get it now, or vice versa, Armenian nation would understand and would stood like age ago, maybe some new Najdev would appear and would be able to defend the whole Armenian interest. But Turkey would be always going towards its long-term strategy, and it's not only related to Zangezur and Armenian nation. They would definitely make then Azerbaijan to be their vilayet, and then would go even towards China, hitting to all other regional parts, Central Asia, Afghanistan, and all other issues. That's why Turkish expansion is not something new in that regard, and we need to perfectly understand that it's not starting and ending up with the Zangezur corridor. But for us, only that part is interested, because this is our interest, this is our state. Well, whatever would be the Turkish policy in Afghanistan, maybe I would kind of not be bothered myself too much, but at least I need to take into account for the proper system preparation or proper scenario planning for Armenian nation development. But whatever is very important for my interest for the Zangezur corridor, this is the most important for me.
Thank you, Tevan, for your time. This was an interesting discussion.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Well, that was our week in review show, and we hope it helped you catch up with some of the issues in and around Armenia from this past week. As always, we invite your feedback and your suggestions. You can find us on most social media and podcast platforms, or our website, groong.org. On behalf of everyone in this episode, we wish you a great week. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels, like our pages, and follow us on social media. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.